Testing 1 2. Gotta push the right button. I know. I'd like to welcome everybody to our regular board meeting for the UNT County School District Number 1. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. The board will consider adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the minutes. The board will consider approval of the September 12th and October 3rd, 2017 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, let's move on to approve the payment of the bills. The board will consider approval of the payment of the bills.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the payment of the bills as presented to us. Second.
Okay, I need to note that I need to abstain from approving check number 103547 in the amount of $45 to Two Guys Flooring. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Down to the simple budget.
Madam Chair, members of the board, it's on the screen, I think you can see most of it. We're 21.3% into the school year and only have expended 13.5% of the budget. So, again, healthy, this is always a great time of year if you're looking at budgets.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, let's move on to our communications. We'll open the floor for any public comments.
Don't
Okay.
everyone rush up.
Okay, none noted. So we'll move on to our discussion items. Discussion item A is our survey questions, board resolution, size of the board.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I was asked to put a survey together to gather information from all stakeholders regarding reducing the board from 9 to 7 members. So I thought it would be best if I just throw up the, I thought it would be best if we just talked about the survey.
Throw up, huh?
Yeah, we're not going to throw up. But, so this is the survey, and it's very, very simple. And I'm actually probably going to send you a link, and you can take it in a few minutes if you want. It's that simple. I tried to keep it as simple as possible in terms of this resolution, and I also attached a link so they can read the resolution if they want to read it in whole. There's not a lot of background information, just a little. You can see it's pretty straightforward. As you come to the first question, in my opinion, the size of the board should remain at 9 members. I agree, stay with 9. I disagree, reduce to 7, and I am undecided. If they select agree, it takes them to section 2, which lists the reasons that I believe I've heard you guys have talked about. Give me 1 second, I'll adjust that. Watch me knock it off. So this is where the discussion comes into play, is if we want to add additional reasons, we can. If you notice the bottom, the last reason is I've added my reason to the comment section at the end of the survey. So there is an open-ended comment section that they can put anything they want. My reason for doing it this way is, and hopefully you'll see when we get to some results, is if you just open it as comments only, there's really no way to show you the results in any kind of format that you could use to help in your decision-making process. So these are the reasons that I have heard, and these are the ones we put up there. So if they respond, I disagree, reduce to 7. This is the reason for a 7-member board. And again, the last one is I've added my reasons to the comment section at the end of the survey. So if there are other reasons, we would kind of like to know what the other reasons are from reducing from 9 to 7. So we're not trying to shut off any dialogue at all. And then, depending on their response, it takes them to the undecided. There's a third choice, undecided. Really what it gets is an open-ended, what information would help you in your decision-making process. And it is an open answer, they can put anything in there. So that will give us some information about what we can provide the public in the decision-making process. I'm sure one of the things will be, what do other districts do? And we have that information, and we've shared it publicly, but that doesn't mean,
They know.
because I don't think everyone's watching the camera tonight about the board meeting. But again, it'll give us some information about why people are undecided or not knowing. And the fifth section is simply a comment section, encouraging individuals to put the comments they want. So it's really simple, pretty straightforward. The plan is to put it to all stakeholders through our system so they have access to it. I report on the board meetings on the radio, so I'll do that tomorrow. It'll be on our website, they'll have access. What I'd really like to do is try to push it to parent-teacher conferences. The high school's parent-teacher conferences are tomorrow, middle schools are Thursday, and give parents an opportunity while they're there to just fill out the survey. Again, get as much as we can. We'll send it to the staff, of course. They're the easiest to get a hold of and the easiest to get feedback from. So just kind of,
What if we want to change the way you've drafted the questions? Right?
oh, you're very welcome to do that. Again, this is like I said, just a draft of what I put together. Let me show you what the responses look like. I just threw it out to the principal group today, and while they had some time, they filled it out. So this is what the responses look. In my opinion, the size of the board should remain at 9 members. You can see, I agree, stay with 9, I disagree. Reduce to 7, I'm undecided. I agree and I disagree. I don't know why it came with 2 greens and 2 purples. I just noticed that. We'll have to work on that. And you can see that's just for the first ones. Kind of curious why it would even do that. There's only 3 choices. Huh. We'll have to work on that. And so if they responded, I'd like to stay at the 9-member board. This is how the responses look. You can see that 3 put greater representation. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. The 3. So 3 responded, and you can see their responses. To move to a 7-member board, you can see the responses here, 50%. One of them selected the 7-member board represents, and then there is not a need for a 9-member board. 7 members provide ample community representation. So this is how the results would come back to you. Reasons for undecided. There were 2 responses, so roughly it was split a third with even our administrators. Pros and cons, you can see how it's listed, and it comes out pretty simple text. Comments are the same. They come out, and you'll be able to read through the comments directly. So that's what the survey would look like. The reason why I presented it this way is so we can do exactly what Jamie would like to do is reword the questions, if you'd like to.
So, your initial question is slanted and biased. I don't like that. I think that the proposal on the table is to reduce the size, and so I think what it should read is, not in my opinion, I think it should. Should the board reduce the size of the board to 9 members? Yes, no, or undecided? That's the question. Then you can skip down to, if you say
The same
yes,
things, yeah.
why? If you say no, why? But I don't think, by starting out saying, in my opinion, the size of the board should remain at 9 members, you're slanting that answer with the very first question, and that's.
Well, there was no intent to that. The intent was we have 9, there's a change.
But that's what I'm saying.
So-
The resolution is, let's consider reducing it, so I think that should be the initial question.
And like I said, that's fine. I put this out to our administrative team and asked for suggestions.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest suggestion I received was make sure they have a comment section, so.
Right.
So we need to change that first question.
I like it.
Well, yeah, but I
We
don't.
know where you sit, Kay.
Well, I know where you sit.
The proposal, as I understand it, that the majority agree with the proposal is to reduce. So, and that's what we want to ask the public is,
Yea
how
or
do you
nay?
feel about the proposal to reduce?
Well, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and I heard it
I've
over
talked
there.
to.
Either way, it's
quite a
biased.
few Community members, they don't even, community members don't even know how many board members we have or anything like that, you know? And, so when we state that it's 9 already, you know, like that, I think that
Well, we can
serves a
have,
purpose.
the current format of the board is 9 members. The board is, if the board is considering reducing that to 7 members, do you agree or disagree? I mean, I think that's a statement of fact.
And that's much better.
It's much better.
With that.
Could you even make it a little bit more open and just say, I don't know how you would want to word it, but just say, do you prefer 9 or 7? Not
I
even
did,
really
if
throw
you notice, I
out.
put, when I gave this to the principals, I did notice they had a little confusion. Now, if I
Right.
agree, does that mean I'm for 9? So that's why I added stay with 9, reduce to 7.
Right.
And maybe that's the way we phrase this is, would you like a 9-member board, would you like a 7-member board?
Or,
And
or I
undecided.
would like a 9-member board, I would like a 7-member board.
So that doesn't
And not
even
even put a question.
state how things are right
Yeah.
now.
But, I mean, I think you have to have the initial question. This is, the current makeup of the board is 9 members. They are considering a resolution to reduce that size to 7 members. In your opinion, 1, I would like to keep 9 members. 2, I would like to reduce to 7 members. 3, I am undecided.
Sherry, did you get that?
I can help you.
Okay. So I will put it together tonight. Do you guys want to just run a sample and try this? See what it's going to look like for individuals who do this?
No.
Okay. That's easy. So we'll change that question. The rest of the reasons are okay?
I mean, I would like to have an other.
Well, that's what I'm kind of hoping that last one is.
But what I'm saying is have the box so that, because, so for question 2, have an other box under question 2 and 3, so that then they can go down to 5 and say, here's the other. If you know, if you said other, what is the reason?
Board one doesn't make sense.
This
It's a
one?
challenge. It is a challenge to get. Is A a challenge?
It is a challenge, I would assume.
Yeah, it is a challenge.
It is, right? So if you had, current board has 9 members. The board is considering reducing the size of the board to 7 members. And I support the 9 members.
So can I ask what
I
happened
support
to
the reduction to 7
question in the survey?
You sure can.
Let's stick with this first, and then we'll jump to
Okay.
Kirby.
So I will work on this, and you guys will see it tonight. Make sure you're okay by tomorrow before we put it out to anybody. Okay?
Yeah, so
So-
like I said, Brian, I would put an other box in 2 and 3, and then have,
Instead of saying,
Right, and
I have
then
added
I've
my
added
reason
my
to the comment
reason.
section, just
You can
other,
put other
please,
and then-
please add your
but
comment to
other,
the
and
reason
then
section.
under, and then it would go directly to, if you marked other, what are your reasons? And then you can do 4 and 5 as well, other comments.
And it does, it kicks you down to that
Right.
section automatically. Except
Yeah,
the
the
undecided, it'll
ma-
kick you to 5, wouldn't kick you to 4.
Might all want 5.
What's that?
Could end up with a
Oh,
request
no,
for
I like
5.
5 because I wanna hear the crap, man. I wanna hear it.
Who knows?
I don't know if you've asked around. I have. One comment I got was we shouldn't have school boards. It should be done by the.
Well, we pretty much do it.
Holy cow. Well, that's one of the interesting things when you get into policy development. Sometimes you get things that you don't really want to get into. So, but we'll make a change, get it out. I appreciate the comments, like I said, as we want to make this as simple as possible so people will take the time. Won't take very much time. There is a,
Not too long.
okay. So that's really all I have for that.
So what about Kirby's comment?
I can explain if you'd like. when we started down this process, we agreed to do 2 resolutions. One that reduced the size of the board from 9 to 7, and one that reinstated residency areas. In the research of that, Jeff came across the issue of residency areas is much more complicated. You have to do a study, a population study, and in the documentation that I found from 95, it had to go to the vote of the public. So we had a discussion. There's only 5 members here. And the discussion was, do we continue to work on a resolution? Is there board support to work on a resolution to add in residency areas, or do we just focus on the 9 to 7 right now? So last board meeting, I was encouraged just to work on the 9 to 7 at this point, and the residency areas is still a discussion. Now that there's 8 of you here, it may be a good time to have that discussion if there is a majority that would like to pursue residency areas. And the only residency areas we even looked at were Hilliard and Almy. From history, that's kind of the ones that had residency areas in the past. City Council has residency areas inside Evanston, which doesn't make much sense for a school district, since it's one school district. The remote aspect and even maybe the unique aspect of Hilliard with transportation is really the only, I think, significant difference in terms of the school. Almy is similar. I think that's where the discussion needs to be, is do we feel that representation would be better if we had residency areas within our election? Or is it better to go 9 or 7 at large?
So my opinion is, if you're sending the survey out, I mean, it's good just to gather the information while you're doing the survey. You're not gonna, I don't see why it's an issue to attach that to this survey, personally.
I
Well,
think-
I think we didn't have, there weren't any of the board members that were here that night that thought that it was worth pursuing.
It only complicates the issue of the resolution we have by adding this to it. Unless, Kirby, you've got support to go that route, that's one way, but the 5 of us were here, with the complication of doing it, 5 of us felt like it was too much of an aggravation in the process, and it would take some time.
Too much of an aggravation process to ask the question?
No, I didn't say that, it's too much aggravation to do the,
That's all I'm asking, is put it on the survey. I don't think that's too much to ask.
It actually does convolute the survey, Kirby. Not that,
I don't think so.
because what you would say is should there be, I don't know what you call it,
Residency areas.
residency areas,
Yes, no, agree, disagree, or no comment?
but they're not, I mean, but it's like, but you're still trying to figure out, well, what does that mean? And if it's a 9-member board, how many are assigned to a residency? And if it's a 7-member board, how many are assigned to residency? And it creates, and you'd have to start breaking those down in the question. And so I think my personal preference is to keep it at just the one question for now. Not to say I'm closing the door on the residency areas, but I'd like to keep it at just the size for right now. That's just me, so.
I'd like to include the question right now while you're sending the survey out. You're not gonna get multiple responses from the survey. I don't think it's too much to, do you feel that the public doesn't deserve to answer that question? I mean,
I think when it's appropriate, absolutely, but I just don't know that,
So why isn't it
one step at a
appropriate?
time.
Why isn't it appropriate when
Again,
you're sending the survey out?
one step at a time. You can do another survey for that question later, but let's figure out what the size is first.
Madam Chairman, I move that we poll the board on this, just to see if anybody wants to go with Kirby. That's the easiest way to resolve it. Everybody has to make a vote one way or the other.
Wants to go with Kirby in what way?
In supporting,
Supporting-
adding it to
Adding a
the,
question.
Question. And we won't argue anymore once we know what the poll is.
I visited with a board member that was on the board when this happened. Explained that it kind of came from the state
all the residency thing.
on the numbers of voters per area. But we have changed so much. I mean, Bear River itself, I think, should have an elementary school personally. And they did that, they should have a board member. And I don't know if you just around the county has changed a lot. So
Okay.
I'd like to see it addressed too. I don't know if it muddles it or not muddles it, but it's something maybe should be asked.
I think my concern about, not even concern, but a question that is not answered for me, with the redistricting is, so, say I were the board member from my district, what, am I advocating for, or what am I concerned more about for the people in my district than I am for the people in my neighboring districts? Like, I feel like for the city council, it makes more sense, but for the school board, our kids are all going to the same schools. And it doesn't, could you, I mean, Kirby, you've been on the board for 11 years. What have you advocated for the folks out in Hilliard that nobody else could have?
Well, I think it gives them a chance for representation that, you know.
But that's what Tammy's
just
saying.
fair representation.
Explain
Why
that to
wouldn't
me.
she represent Hilliard just as much as she would any of the kids that,
I'm
you
not
know, go
saying
to
that-
Clark?
that she would. I just think that it's important to have that fair representation across the
But
board.
I'm just curious, as far as schools and education is concerned, what, what is specific to the people out in Hilliard?
Well, the calendar issue is one issue that, I mean, I take,
What, like, I don't know what you're saying. What is the calendar
that's
issue?
something that the agricultural community has been advocating for years, is, you know, the start date and the end dates. I mean, and I've been pretty vocal about that, and none of the rest of the board has represented agricultural interests whatsoever in that aspect, so,
Well,
so you want an example, there's an example.
Okay, so I'm curious, if we were all to be at large, and say there was nobody from Hilliard, if someone came in and said, okay, these are my concerns about this start and end date, I mean, would not the rest of the board listen to that and take that into consideration just like they do when you say that? You know, I don't understand.
I don't know, it seems to fall on deaf ears right now, so.
I don't remember that even coming
No.
up in the calendar discussion this year.
We have.
Well-
I'm just,
Well, there's a request for a vote on.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay,
Let's proceed.
so I assume that there's no discussion on the voting, so let's go ahead and vote. How do we do this?
Either vote to include or not to include
districting.
on the survey.
So, let's have a show of vote of including the a redistricting question on the current survey. Who is in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Who was the second item?
Kay was,
So take Kirby
and
Cassie.
and Cassie. Any opposed?
All right.
Aye.
So Kay and Kirby.
Kay and Kirby and me.
And Cassie.
Sorry.
Okay, so it will not be added to the current question.
Correct.
Okay, like I said, we'll get that to either early in the morning and get it to you so we can get it out as soon as possible, so you can read through the question. And like I said, that's why we did this, so we can make sure we're not biased. We just want to get good information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and move on to our WSBA Annual Conference and Delegate Assembly, November 15th through the 17th.
Madam Chair, this is the schedule. You'll notice the delegate assembly starts at 1:30. And so we do need 2 delegates to represent the board and our resolutions and any other resolutions that we see. We'll probably get a list of all resolutions to review as a group, either for the work session or the regular session in November. So we'll get to see all the resolutions. That allows the board to help the representatives know how to vote.
Okay.
So that would mean we'd probably have to leave early on Wednesday morning. Seems to be the most popular. We typically finish on Friday at noon. You can see the general closing session is 11:45. So you'll be back Friday evening.
Okay.
So I guess the big questions now is delegates. Do we have volunteers? Do we want to appoint them?
Any volunteers to go? I can go, but I want to make sure that everybody has ample opportunity to go as well.
I've gone 4 years in a row, I'd like to take a year off.
Okay.
And this is in
November.
Casper.
In Casper.
It's a beautiful drive.
Especially in November. Wow, you guys are really jumping up wanting to go, aren't you?
Well, if people can think about it, and then
That sounds good.
when, maybe
We can talk about it in November as a calendar.
at the next meeting, or if somebody comes up with an idea that they can go, they can let Sherry know as soon as they can.
I may be
Who's driving?
I would probably drive.
Not me.
able to go. Can I drive myself?
You can.
Ooh, that's brutal.
What'd you say?
It just.
He says that was brutal.
Just
Drive by
given-
yourself.
Given my schedule,
No.
it just may have to happen that way, that's what
Okay.
I'm saying.
Okay.
I thought he said something.
Okay. Well, anybody who wants to volunteer, please let Sherry know as soon as you can.
Cassie, will you go with Brian?
I will go, yes. We just have to hoof it home, because that's my daughter's birthday.
Ooh, on Friday?
So I have to do dinner at least.
So you'll be home early on Friday.
As long as we make it for dinner. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our NSBA conference, which is April 7th through the 9th, 2018 in San Antonio.
And that one I am interested in.
You too.
Okay.
I don't know how many we send.
Registration opens in 1 week,
Okay,
and then once you register, the next day you can go Calvary.
okay.
And they go really fast, because it gets there before.
So
Yes.
you wanna jump on it?
So like, I need to know.
And we get it,
ASAP what your schedule's gonna look like.
Okay.
What's really nice is to get in the hotel where the conference is at, so.
Yeah, no, I
You
was
don't
gonna
have to be
say,
bussed.
yeah.
And when you get bussed, you get buzzed.
And we get a discount for registering early, right? Okay.
and has anybody been to these before? Is it good to go to the seminars the day before, or no?
Not really. I don't think so.
1 year, the first year I went, I thought it was really good. When I went last year, I actually did a school visit, so a site visit. And it was with a district that was doing some very, very different things than we were. And it was a really good experience. But it just kind of depends on your schedule and what you want to get out of it. When, Sherry, is the breakout sessions listed?
The 6th.
Well, that,
Okay, well,
that is important.
when would we
maybe,
know
Um,
what they are?
They're in
I know,
the
that's what's
packet.
in
Right.
They're already in the packet, okay.
That is the last
It's
Friday
the
of
end
spring break.
which is
So
why I
Friday,
have,
Saturday, Sunday.
so
spring
if I
break.
go, I'm probably gonna go early and take my family with me and stay at a friend's house, and then go to the conference after that. But,
Because
and send my
normally you have
family
to fly
home.
out on Thursday if you do the pre-conference, because it's gonna take you too long to get there. Because
Yeah, it's
most of the
5 hours.
conference starts at 9 o'clock in the morning on that Friday, the pre-conference.
So, okay,
So you would have to fly out on Thursday if you do any
Mhm.
events.
okay.
But if you're there,
But like I say, I may actually fly out earlier, pay for my family
Yeah.
to go, and then send them home
That's what-
when I go to that,
I was gonna
so.
say, if you're there, they're usually, you can find some pretty interesting
Comes
ones.
that way, and home is this way.
But
Okay, so far we have 2 that are interested, and you're for sure interested, Tammy?
I'm in.
Okay,
So
so,
Tammy and Henry.
the newbies.
so,
You need it.
I can go, but I want,
Probably the most interesting thing about San Antonio is the Alamo is like, oh no, it's that little.
Yeah.
You don't believe it. It's worth seeing.
Really?
It
I
really
think-
is. Really worth seeing, get through.
I think the most important thing about San Antonio, Dave, is that it's not snowing.
I think the genius of building the Riverwalk for flood.
Yeah, that's
taking
a
advantage
good
of
walk.
that, tourist industry.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan, you've said that we've always tried to budget 3.
3.
Okay. Okay.
And you guys know how that works, is there's always some room in the budget, so
Right.
2 go great. We've had pretty lean years the last 2 or 3 years because of the budget issues. I think 1 went last year.
Yes.
And so if more than that want to go, we can find it in the budget. So,
Okay.
like I said, we've had some really good experiences at these. 1 year, I think 6 went, and it was in Chicago, and we had to be bused about 20 minutes away, but it was a very, very good conference. About 35,000 individuals at these conferences.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our policy KG revisit.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm going to have Mr. Phillips come up and join me with this. He's the one who brought this to my attention and would like to talk to the board about it. Here, Jeff. I'll get you another one.
I'm going to make this quick, and I'm going to have Ryan help me. If you look at the second paragraph of KG, it says facilities will be available to organizations or individuals who can provide a verification of liability insurance or provide a waiver of district liability. And when we originally talked about this, I was concerned about providing a waiver of district liability. Said, well, I'll go do some looking to see what I can find. I was skeptical, and my skepticism has proven to be accurate, and here's why. I looked at several school districts across the state of Wyoming and Utah, and I also pulled Jamie's, your facilities use agreement from Summit County, and they have a hold harmless clause. It's paragraph 7 from your hold harmless clause here. And it basically says that whoever is using the facilities is going to indemnify and hold Summit County harmless. And I'm using Jamie's example because it's very consistent with what I found in all the districts and colleges across Wyoming and Utah. But it says that it holds the county harmless. It then says that whoever's using the property is going to agree to purchase and maintain during the period of the lease liability insurance in an amount not less than, and then it has some blanks that you can fill in depending on which property is being used, so on and so forth. And then at the end it says, in the event the proof of insurance is not provided as directed, the lease shall be deemed breached and the deposit forfeit. And so although every governmental organization that I looked at did have an indemnity clause or a hold harmless clause, they all unanimously required whoever was using the property to have an insurance policy, and none of them permitted any of the users to just waive that and say, well, if something does go wrong, then you'll have to cover it. And I'm assuming that that's because these governmental organizations don't want any liability, which I am in favor of as the attorney for the school district. But in addition to that, normally individuals or groups who are using the facilities don't have the means to cover any damages personally or within the organization itself. And so it doesn't, yeah. Now, on the other side, I'm going to have Ryan pitch in here and help me a little bit, but I know that Ryan is primarily concerned with some of our employees wanting to get together with some people afterwards, not as an employee function because that would be different, but just as a private activity of some kind, and the nuisance and difficulty of requiring them to get the insurance. And I think that's part of the reason why we had that in there initially, why Ryan put that in. I don't want to speak for you, Ryan, so if you want to explain anything in addition to that.
I guess part of the reason why it's in there is tradition. We've always let our employees use our facilities for personal use if they're willing to pay the fees. And a good example would be a custodian that had a family reunion. They could use the cafeteria at Evanston Middle School for their family reunion. they're custodians, so they clean it up, and there's really no issue. We've always allowed that, and that's where this idea of a waiver. And I see the wisdom in this, and I also see we've had organizations that have used our facility with insurance, that we've had an individual hurt in the past, and our insurance paid the liability, even though it was not our event, and they provided their own insurance policy. I would hope. So that is a concern, and you guys have been around in the community as we've had individuals fall in the cake. That's why it's no longer sunken. We've had individuals fall in the grates to remove the snow from shoes. That's why we no longer have grates at the front of the schools. We've had individuals trip on the doorstops that were built into the buildings 50 years ago. That's why we no longer have doorstops built into the floors. And all these have come by because of liability issues. So I guess the decision to withdraw the idea that you could waive the liability, what you're agreeing to then is that you're definitely a limited use. Only those that have insurance will be able to use the facility, ever. What worries me about that is one of the reasons why we updated this facility use policy is so we could get our employees to fill out and do this correctly. In other words, don't just show up on Thanksgiving Day for a basketball game with 50 people. Sign up for the facility. You can use it for a small fee. Yeah, what I think now is it'll go back underground. So we were able, I'm sure it was still underground. It sure is, if we find out about it. But that's where you are with this, is if we remove that section, that's really what we're doing away with, is our own employees using our own facility.
We can do it either way. I can write this a contract with the waiver to where a party could hold harmless the school district without the insurance policy or with, but we need some board guidance.
What's the difference, like, the city, I know when I worked at the city, you could use them, like, their facilities, and their what's the difference on this?
So like if I rent the pavilion at the Bear Ponds or whatever, right, I paid the $100 deposit, they actually have insurance that will cover that liability damage. And then there is actually a hold harmless provision in the contract that you sign.
But they've even had to up their rates. They're a little more significant than they were even years
But
ago.
the county, we don't allow our employees, I mean, if the employees want to use the facility.
They have to get insurance.
everybody else.
I guess that's a third option. We could explore the possibility of increasing our insurance coverage.
Kirby?
So why can't you just make it, I mean, I can imagine that fee would be very significant if we went out and got a policy and that was just attached to the fee schedule. If you don't have your own insurance for $10 or whatever, you can buy onto our rider policy or whatever.
I think that's a great idea.
And it names us specifically as the insured. They're paying for it, but it names us as the insured for that, whatever that is.
I think most of the time we're gonna have our staff housing or doing all the work anyway, so I think we're gonna want our insurance.
If you look at the fee schedule, if you look at the fee schedule, we may have priced out the little guy anyway, because we did base them on actual costs. And I think that's a great idea to go out and ask our liability carrier to provide some sort of rider, and we could see how much it would be to cover. I don't even know how much you'd cover a gym for a day's use.
For small events, you know, one day use, 2-hour use, or whatever, they're pretty minimal. It's $50.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's a great idea.
If we already have a policy, it may even be less than that. I mean, if it's just a rider.
If it's just a rider that we make them pay for that names us as a special one.
We can explore that.
Good
Well, too, I just, with the waiver thing, you know, I do know of some school employees that have been pressured by family members, not in their immediate family, to host events at the schools, and this would help them to be able to tell them no.
Yeah.
do a special favor for you just because I'm an employee. Yeah, support.
Okay, we'll look into that and we'll, moving forward.
Good job, Josh. Solve that problem fast.
Okay, so we'll see that back. Let's move on to our facility updates.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I am inviting Mr. Dennis to come and we can kind of tag team on this. I wish we could say that everything we started years ago is finished, but we can't. Evanston Middle School is, you've seen phase 2 is basically finished. The only thing remaining is the work on the roof. And I'm not sure, how close are we?
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, yes, our roof. The actually roof is about 90% complete. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but they have added the extra sections that needed to be added. They've got the it's like a membrane has been laid, and now they're starting to put the tin that's going to cover that membrane
Flashing.
and bring that from the building down in. And so they, at this point, have about 60% of that flashing done as of yesterday. I didn't get a chance to get up today, but I anticipate that they should be completed with that in a week. Now, Doug's probably looking at me and saying, if that's Jaren's week, it'll probably be 3 weeks.
I guess
It baffles me sometimes, and I don't understand why it is we hire individuals, contractors, and they must have a 3-day work week. And it must start about 10, have a 2-hour lunch break, and then be done about 4. And I haven't been able to figure that out here in the district, so maybe I need to
we
do
did
something
find a
different.
solution, though. If you know, it takes a lift to get on top of that building, and apparently they didn't set the key right, so when they got up, the lift wouldn't
They were stuck.
go down, because you had to be on the ground to turn the lift off. So they had to stay and work until they could notify someone to go turn the key, but that's probably not the best way to do it. I can tell you that I'm very optimistic, because I've been on that roof. Compared to where we were, I think this is gonna work, and I think it's gonna work very, very well, and it's very simple. Probably the only thing that was disappointing is there's 5 additions to that facility. 2 of them are on the ends, and we've not had any issues with the expansion joints there. The other 3 of the 4 have leaked, and they left one without the flashing on it. So we did ask to make sure that that one's flashed too. Very simple. It's definitely going to work. There are 2 other areas that concern me that are not leaking presently, and we've had some good moisture. So hopefully we got it taken care of. But I do think this is going to work in a good solution, and it is on budget. That's the good news.
Yep.
The other thing with the MS is we've ordered a plaque. Apparently that wasn't followed through with the original architect and contractor, so we will have a plaque that will list the board. And that should be here within the next month, we hope. Wyoming School Facilities Commission meets here in November. I'm hoping to have some kind of ceremony where we ribbon cutting, whenever you want. It's kind of a little late. We've had school in there for 2.5 years now, but some ribbon cutting. The monument sign, if you've driven by, is at least in correct position now. They'll pour the footings, hopefully
Should
2
start
weeks.
pouring the- yeah.
Just kidding, in a week. The monument sign is here, it's built, it just has to get finished. If you recall, we had to go to the city and petition for an easement. That was approved. Believe it or not, when we were there, we found out we had to go to the city and petition for another easement on the size of the sign on top of Evanston Middle School. Apparently, the letters are too large and not for code, so Jaren will go there Thursday and plead to keep the Evanston Middle School sign the way it is.
So what happens, just to kind of let you know, any building that's built, you're allowed so much square footage, in essence, for signage. And we are over our allowed square footage because Evanston Middle School is a fairly large name, and we do have a little bit larger. They ended up being 18 inches instead of just 12. And so we did have to go back, and I'll go Thursday and get that approved with the city to have that taken care of.
Just go SKO.
I- Off the record, there were many things that I thought about doing.
And just again, I think our best argument was, or is, that was a part of the original drawings and plans that were approved, and we paid a significant fee for a building permit. And if you remember, at that time, we petitioned to have that fee waived because the fee is actually to pay for inspections, which the city doesn't do, so we had to hire a third party to provide us the inspection. So anyway, it's a little disappointing, but I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. Mayor, I think, is
The mayor's-
understanding.
Yes.
I think we're gonna be fine, but still, it's just not very user-friendly for a new business coming in. Yeah.
I get to go
Thursday.
Thursday. Do you want to join me, Josh? Okay.
So anyway, that's where we are with Evanston Middle School. Transportation.
Transportation, if you haven't been out there, you do need to drive out there. It looks beautiful. They got the ephes and the rock work done. Matches, same coloration as what the facilities building looks like. We've got the gutter crew coming back up this week. We ran into a little bit of a hiccup there because of the ephes and where it came. There was not enough of a drip edge. So we're gonna have to go back and add a drip edge so that then the gutter can be put in and it will drain properly. So that should be completed next week or Halloween,
If you're
for
betting.
that. We also have the asphalt project. If you remember, there were two projects that we had going on. One was at the high school on Red Devil Drive. That's been completed. The other was out at transportation, as they started to take away some of the old asphalt. Again, as you may recall, for those of you who've been on the board, we've had a lot of issues out there. It has drainage issues and it's got water.
Groundwater.
We could actually probably provide enough water to get all your hay fields taken care of, Kirby. So, in an effort to do it properly, they had to come in, excavate a little bit more, put down a fabric barrier. We've been allowing that to dry out. Well, we get 2 days of sunshine, a day of moisture, 2 days of sunshine, a day of moisture, and so we're still waiting for that to completely dry before they'll put that asphalt in. Last conversation I had with them on Monday was that they were hoping to have that asphalt done Thursday and Friday. As long as we can continue to have some sunshine and a little bit of wind, that should be ready for them to have that asphalt. We also had the cement around one of the gas pumps, the island, was starting to sink as a result too. So that is being rectified. They've got the pumps elevated right now, and they're redoing the cement work, reinforcing, putting some more base underneath that so that those won't cause issues as well. So hopefully, again, by end of October, transportation, the asphalt there, we'll end up doing 2 sections, but section 1 is completed. As you recall, last year the roof was done. We now have the ephes, and so it looks like a brand new building. So then elevator.
Yeah.
Elevator here at the ESC. I didn't realize coming into the middle of this, replacing an elevator I would assume to be a simple task. But as anything, for safety, as you replace the elevator, you have to make sure everything else is up to code. And one of the things that wasn't up to code was our fire system here. So they've had to go through and redo the entire fire system, which is the new fire alarms.
Strobes, audible alarms.
Which then brings me up to the sprinkler issue I just found out about today. And so they do have to add a few more sprinklers in some areas that no longer had them. And so what should have been about a 2-week project is now into week 8. and we'll probably go into week 10, and Doug says Christmas. So, which has been kind of an inconvenience not only for our own staff members, but quite a few of our public. And so we are anxiously awaiting that project to be completed so that we can have that done. Good news is we'll have that to code as well as the fire system here.
It is a
Will be up to
brand
code.
new elevator, everything's new, so they were totally replaced it, so that's,
Yep.
that was one of our ones on our scores, or CFI scores,
What's that?
major maintenance.
Major, everything we're talking about major maintenance is paying for, except for the EMS, which is under that capital project, and everything there. I talked to Lance last week, and we are still under budget, which is good, which means I don't need to come and visit with you guys about asking for more funds. I did ask if there was any funds left, if we got to keep them, and he shook his head.
No, we have permission. We got permission a long time ago to put those into security, so we will continue that discussion. I have that written somewhere, so.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So,
So-
the other, last issue is DMS pool. Maybe you've heard grumblings about the pool. We lost the main pump, circulation pump, so the pool cannot be used. It's actually turned a pretty green color right now already. Yeah. And we had Kemmer, because their pool went down, so we had Kemmer swimming here and girls swimming here and RDAT. We had to move that all to the high school. We did have their senior day at the high school last Thursday. We couldn't provide a scoreboard, but there was electronic scoring, so they could qualify their times for state. Great deal of work on our maintenance crew and activities department. There is some bad information out there that we just delayed getting the pump. The pool was built in the early 80s, and the pump has to be
Custom
built from scratch. It has to be built for that area. We thought it'd be 6 weeks before the pump was finished. I think I sent you an update that it's 4 weeks, but it'd still take 2 weeks to install. We think we'll get it in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a good answer. So it is being approached. It was approached quickly by our maintenance group, but it takes time to build a pump. And so no one dragged their feet because it's a pool. We put money into it. It is major maintenance money again. And so the pool will be fixed before Christmas.
So,
Yeah,
No.
no.
again, just to kind of dispel some rumors, there are some people who said that they could do this job, one person. Just so you know, they have to actually build an A-frame, which will lower that pump into place. And so it's not just a one-person job. It'll take a whole crew. It's a specialty crew. They spent a day up here just looking at all of the different flanges and everything that they needed to do to hook that pump up to make sure they had the right connection. So it is quite a task. The pump did arrive. And so now we're waiting on the company to come in and do that installation. And so once that pump is in, it is still about a week process, because then we have to get the water back up to temperature, and then also have the right chemical balance so that everything's balanced before we allow kids in. And so it's not just hey, the pump's in, we're starting to circulate, we can have kids in the next day. There is a process. Yep, you got to get rid of the green water and go through that. So anything that you can do to kind of help dispel some of the rumors that are going on would be appreciated, because it really is. We jumped on it as soon as we found out, found a pump, found several, and found a way to get it here as quick as we could to get it rectified, knowing that we had girls swim, we have RDAT, we've got
Kemmer.
PE, we had Kemmer, and middle school. I mean, there's a lot that goes on, and so really going through that process. So,
You guys have any
Okay.
questions about facilities or anything that you've seen going on? One of these days, we'll come back and say, hey, it's all done. We can fire our maintenance department.
As long as
I don't think so.
Somehow I don't think that's gonna happen.
As long as Murphy's out there,
Yes.
never.
you think you get ahead a little bit, and then you
Right.
show up the next day.
I know about it.
Maybe we should look at some kind of scoreboard timing system at the high school pool.
Yeah.
You know, we had two at one time. I don't know what's,
If you remember, that was kind of the plan, is to take the one down that was malfunctioning and fix it and put it at the high school. It was not repairable. So it was in worse shape than we even assumed. So if we are going to purchase one, which we could, it just wouldn't be as nice. The
Well,
one that's there is $50,000, I think.
Yeah. But
But
something.
I think
that-
it's a good idea.
Yes, the one we had before, almost seemed like it was purchased late in the time. It came down in like 8 sections, didn't it? Or
Yeah.
so when it came down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it just seems like maybe we ought to look at that as a
One-
insurance policy for future events or something.
One of the things talking to Mr. O'Neill, Director O'Neill, is this is the first time that the timing pads, the timing equipment, and the scoreboard are all the same technology. So for the last 2 meets, we've had no issues with that. In the past, we tried to take a different timing system and the timing boards. So that would be, I guess we're in a position now where we can probably move forward with the scoreboard at the high school.
Do we still have 2 sets of touchpads?
We do now, for the mere fact that we just replaced all of the touchpads. So the old touchpads were the Colorado timing touchpads. And those we're actually going to take up to the high school and have those available up there, whether it be for RDAT or something else.
So we don't have to
Then
move them back and forth.
the new Daktronic ones, which fit the Daktronic board, we're going to keep down and only have those reserved for meets, whether it be a middle school or a high school, boys, girls swim meet. And so, thanks to Mr. O'Neill, we've got those in place, and we've been able to start our meets on time for the first time in a long time, and the equipment has run properly. So.
And just a reminder about pools. Pools, we're not funded for maintenance of pools, which is interesting. At Davis, that's 17% of the footprint of that building. We're not funded for that square footage. We're allowed to use 10% of our major maintenance money. So 10% of our major maintenance money is only $180,000. And we have to maintain 2 pools with that. Now, the equipment can be purchased out of activities, but the maintenance of those pools are expensive. And we stretch our dollars a long way with that. They are, what's the pool at the high school's, how many years? 30 years old now?
Yeah.
And you can see it. It needs probably serious
Well,
facelift.
touchpads, when I did the job, was like $789 per touchpad. You know?
789.
Uh-huh. Just that fiberglass piece with the cross on it. you
Yeah.
know, with a few wires in the back. The diving, I don't know, they used to be called blocks, I don't know what they are on it.
That's
a wire.
The starting blocks there.
Yeah, they were like 2,800.
Yeah, we had to, in my lifetime in the district, we had to move the starting blocks from the shallow end of the pool to the deep end of the pool, and that was pretty pricey. You remember we lost 18 inches of water in Davis Pool for a number of years, so they are challenging to maintain. I think the city's going through the same thing with the rec center pool.
I don't know how the rest of the board would feel, but I would like, Jared, if you could put together what it would take to bring the high school pool up to a spec where it would have to meet without transferring anything back and forth for a board, and then we could get a price on it to see if it would be.
I'd be happy to do that, get you some information.
Yep.
So,
Let's do it.
okay. Anything else? Any other questions as far as facilities? Have you guys heard anything? Have you seen anything?
I know that Coach Levine has commented that even all of his years of coaching at Lyman, the last few meets we've had here, the first ones that have ever started on time and ran smoothly.
That was our goal.
Evanston just had a reputation of go to Evanston and delay 45 minutes per swim meet while you have to put scotch tape on the equipment to get it up to work.
We're hoping we can continue that new tradition, and that the other districts around the state will look to Evanston as a place that they do want to start to come for swimming. And so hopefully we can continue that, and it'll be a positive experience, which reflects not only upon our swimming program, but our district and community as a whole. So, okay.
Okay.
That's all we had
Well,
for facilities.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jared.
We
Yep.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our action items. Our first action item is the physical therapy contract extension.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm gonna let Superintendent Rigby handle this one.
Okay, so that's the contract that I presented to you last week. There's not been any changes to that. You may or may not have heard, I know Mr. O'Neill is in conversations with the Global Doctor Group to help looking at something with a trainer for our schools in the future. This does not do anything to detract from that.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the physical therapy contract extension?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
I have a question. Last time, somebody asked why this wasn't bid out. What was the answer? I don't remember.
I asked
Probably
Do
the
that.
best way to answer it is we are pleased with the service they're providing. The reason why the contract's even being amended is because there are things they don't do any longer and things they do. So he wanted to make sure it
That was
was
the concussion.
correctly represented. We took the concussion off his, we were paying him, we had that in the contract, it's no longer in the contract. Also, we see this coming to an end, especially if we can get a full-time trainer as a partnership. So we're hoping this will be the last year that we even have this contract. Very pleased with the service he provides.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, the Horizon High School field trip request.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we have not changed this since the discussion at the work session. This is a trip we'd like to approve. This is a trip to University of Wyoming. We think it's an excellent trip. You may have heard grumblings and rumors that this is potentially not going to be reimbursed by the state because they return on Saturday or they leave on Saturday. So Director Dickerson has kind of warned us that there may be a potential that this will not be reimbursed. I think this is where we stand up, and we do fight this one. I can't think of a better education trip to taking kids to college. And just because it's the weekend, we took them on the weekend so they don't miss school. It makes too much sense to me. So the only way this would come up is actually when we're audited. And I think that gives us a very good opportunity to fight them. There are things that we won't be able to fight with transportation, and you're probably aware of that. The trip to Lagoon, there's really no academic benefit of that. We've allowed it over the years, but it's been loud and clear that that will not be reimbursable. And non-reimbursable trips are very expensive for us, very expensive. It just kind of shocks me. And those funds can be made up by either the school or the students, but it's cost prohibitive, I think. So what's $345 to take one bus to Laguna and back? We can bring them back. But,
Sorry, jumping you off
yeah,
the
so it is expensive. But anyway, these kind of trips, I think we hold our ground and say, absolutely not. These are reimbursable. These are education trips. Same thing with Teton Science. Because we take them over the weekend, it's potentially, it makes no sense. But anyway, we'll work on that. Just to give you a heads up. If
I don't
you,
understand why it would matter, I guess.
I don't either.
It's just silly,
Since
honestly,
they're not
Josh.
working, they don't
It's-
think.
Because there's a lot of those things, the music in the parks where the middle school kids go down and compete. They compete at different schools and then they do the award ceremony at Lagoon. It's on a Saturday. It's a fantastic opportunity for middle school kids to compete against kids from all over, Utah, Idaho,
Right.
Wyoming. Cheyenne sends kids to this, and that's one that would, under these new guidelines, would not be an acceptable field trip.
Except for Cheyenne.
Yeah, Cheyenne will be covered. They'll
That's
leave
good.
early.
That's
You know, stay over and leave on Monday.
It makes no sense to have our professionals plan these trips to avoid as missing as much school as possible and to find out that's why they're potentially not reimbursed. So we'll keep you informed of that, and like I said, my position is that's a hill we're willing to die on.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the Horizon High School field trip request?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve Horizon High School field trip request as presented by Mr. Thomas.
I'll second that.
Second by Tammy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Down to the GASB 45 approval.
Madam Chair, we recommend that you approve this GASB 45 allotment. I think it's for $5,000. It's something we're required to do. It's the same company we've used in the past. I don't know if anyone really understands it except John, and he is with his staff. He is with his staff being trained right now in our Alio system. So you realize that this isn't the only GASB that we'll have to pay for. There's several coming. So
Right.
Okay.
we recommend you approve it.
Okay. Is there approval for the GASB 45?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, our Rocky Mountain Power Watts Smart.
Madam Chair, members of the board, we discussed this briefly at our work session. The bottom line of this is, I think, 5 of our facilities. It's not Pacific Power. Rocky Mountain Power will come in and change our lights to LEDs and the ballasts associated with them. Because of the number of lights this affects, it is major maintenance money. They get, I don't want to say kickback, but they pay a large portion of this, we pay a small portion, and in return we get new lights, new ballasts in 5 of our facilities. This facility,
Transportation, so, yeah, this facility, transportation, the Curlin building, then 4 of our elementaries. Now they'll replace a percentage, and so when you look at all of our elementaries, it'll be all of the hallways, the office areas, and a couple of the other ancillary places there. It does not go into the classroom. This building itself, it'll get the basement, this floor, it doesn't hit the 3rd floor yet. And so they'll come back in 2 years and get that. That'll be Christmas.
the elevator doesn't work?
can't get upstairs.
She couldn't get upstairs. So it's a program that Rocky Mountain Power provides, and what we hope is that our next one will be our high school, Evanston Middle School in Davis, and then they'll come back and start again with finishing this building and do our classrooms.
So will they do the gyms too, or not?
So the
Those
gyms
lights?
don't qualify right now, only because
updated those a while
we
back.
have really efficient fluorescent lighting,
Right,
and for them to put it in, it's cost prohibitive.
right. Okay. I was wondering what the difference was.
But everything else like this will be LED and same lighting as what we have.
Okay.
So if I'm, sorry.
Do my doodah. As I read these, it appears to me that the savings, energy savings that we receive by doing this installation will recoup our money in about 2 years on average.
Yeah, she figures somewhere between 18 months and 24 months. Now you got to remember what happens when we recoup energy. The state says thank you very much, and then lowers what they reimburse us at.
Well, that was going to be my next question. We're going to do a great thing and reduce our energy costs, and that's wonderful, but all that means is that Cheyenne won't give us any more money,
Less money.
less money.
And we have done a tremendous job as a district over probably the last 8 years in being very conscientious of our energy. We had the train, if you remember the train contract, where we went and upgraded all of our boilers, put in, at that time, more efficient lighting throughout the entire district, have the sensors
Controls.
put in, all of the controls, and we've actually recuperated close to $200,000 as a result of that. How the state works is it's a rolling average, so we'll get that for 3 years, and so we will recoup this $8,000 that we'll expend. We will see that next year, because they're not gonna come back and say, hey, we're taking that from you. So,
It is an interesting situation. They de-incentivize the idea of districts saving money. It makes no sense, so. But we still will. We're still pretty green.
My question was, okay, that's great. So maybe not next year, but the year after, we're gonna expect to see less from
Yes, we will. But again, we're doing a good thing, and either way, at some point we would have to replace this. Major maintenance would pay all 100%. At least this way, we pay a fraction of that, which helps us in the long run. So,
We did this in Tubman County.
yeah,
We've
same
done it.
program.
It's a great program, and it's saved us a lot of money.
So it could be something that you bring up as you have the opportunity to go in November to talk
Delegate
about.
assemblies, yeah.
And say, hey, you know, help us understand when we try to do a good thing for our environment, when we try to do a good thing in saving energy, why is it that we get dinged? So that could be a great discussion item to bring up to see, you know, if there could be some policy changes changed with that regard.
So what's the lifetime, what's the life expectancy of this new upgrade?
So they say LED lighting, we shouldn't have to replace that for 10 to 15 years.
So the ballast last longer too, or, cause I know like these ones you have to replace ballast quite a bit.
Yeah, they say the ballasts last longer, the bulbs last longer. They're also more environmentally friendly. As you know, with these, when you take them out, you shouldn't just put them in the trash. They should actually go into hazardous waste because of the mercury. The other thing that happens is there are individuals who do get, we call them mercury headaches because of fluorescent lighting. When you go to LED lighting, you don't have that anymore. And so from a health perspective, it also is a positive.
So if you leave these meetings with a headache, it's because of the lights.
Yeah,
not
blame it on the
because
lights.
Yeah. But we do recommend that you approve this at second reading.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the Rocky Mountain Power Watts Smart agreement?
So moved. Yeah, what she said.
Second. Yes. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, board roundtable. Does anybody have anything to share or bring up?
I've talked a lot, but just, I did put on your place a press release about the Purple Pinky project that we participate with Rotary, just so you know what it is. Typically, we do this at the end of November, 1st of December, but more or less because that's when I could get to it. But World Polio Eradication Day is the 24th of October, so the 24th, 25th, 26th, the Rotarians will be in our schools collecting $1 from students and painting their pinky purple. What that represents is it's 60 cents a shot or 60 cents a dose for polio vaccination, so it really represents saving one life. Whatever we collect from our students, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation will match. So last year we raised about $1,300, and I think that's about 2,600 lives we saved. Pretty impressive program that Rotary does, and I hope that you guys are good that we partner with them to do this.
Yep.
I just didn't have a roundtable, but I did have a question. I noticed on your, talking about the resolution again, that we have a meeting on the 24th?
What I would like to do, I guess I should have mentioned that. What I would like to do is have a community forum and just come in and answer questions about that. I would love to have some of you here about that, to invite the community in to ask questions about why we're 9 to 7 and to learn the facts. And hopefully we'll have some better information about the survey results, just so we can just talk. So one of the things I told you we'd do is have a public forum before we discuss this at the work session in November.
What time, do you wanna do that?
I have it scheduled for 7
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. It's the third Tuesday, right?
It is the fourth Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday. Yeah, this is a
Which
5 Tuesday.
usually would mean a conflict for me, but I may actually not have a planning commission meeting that night, so.
And if there are going to be more than 4, we probably need to publicize it as a meeting. So please let us know if you can attend.
Well,
And
do you wanna know
if you know right now, that'd be great.
who wants to?
I can be here.
I mean, I can too. I don't necessarily care to, but I can.
Okay. Well,
I can be here too, but I can be here.
okay. So why
Depends on
don't,
if you
I
want
will.
to talk more than.
are you guys okay? Well, it's up to you because really this is your resolution.
Yeah.
I think the more the better, and the that's fine if we have to notice it.
We'll notice it.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There will be no decisions made,
Right.
but you'll still have to have a quorum, as I understand it. At least 5. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And I will facilitate the discussion if you would like. You're welcome to facilitate the discussion however you want to do that. So Cassie and I will talk how that wants
You'll
to
just have it here.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, well, with nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.